Thank you. Mr. President, I want to.
The senator may use whatever time he needs.
I thank the presiding officer and thank the
Excuse,
once again.
if I can,
I want to thank again the brilliant ruling of the parliamentarian on that subject.
if I can have a clarification. So as I understand it, we are in measured time, 2 hours to a side. Any speakers on our side will be taken from that 2-hour total?
That is correct.
Thank you very much.
Mr. President, I want to touch on two critically important subjects that the Senate is considering today. First, I want to rise in support of Vanita Gupta, President Biden's nominee to serve as the Associate Attorney General, the third highest ranking position in our Justice Department. I think my good friend, the senator from Illinois, has already spoken about Ms. Gupta. I want to make a personal note first that Vanita is a fellow Virginian. I'm proud to say that she and her husband, Chin Lee, are raising their 2 sons in the Commonwealth, I believe in Arlington. Ms. Gupta is also an outstanding public servant. She served from 2014 to 2017 as the Principal Deputy Assistant Attorney General in the Civil Rights Division at DOJ. She led the division as the Acting Assistant Attorney General until 2015. Since 2017, she has led one of the country's preeminent civil rights organizations, the Leadership Conference for Civil and Human Rights. This means that if confirmed, Ms. Gupta will be the first civil rights leader in any of the top 3 positions at Justice. The sheer depth and breadth of Ms. Gupta's legal and professional experience makes her an outstanding selection to serve as the Associate Attorney General. Perhaps that's why Ms. Gupta's supporters span the political spectrum, and my understanding is my friend, the senator from Illinois, has already pointed out some of this broad-based bipartisan support. Let me elaborate on some of that support. Grover Norquist calls her an honest broker in his endorsement letter. And let me just state for the record, I've had interactions with Grover Norquist since before I was governor, over 20 years. Grover Norquist has never called me anything close to as nice as he called Vanita Gupta as an honest broker. Mark Holden, the former general counsel of Koch Industries, writes, Ms. Gupta is an exceptional lawyer and among the most talented lawyers I've worked with during my career. Ms. Gupta spent years and years collaborating with people from across the spectrum to promote a more fair and equal justice system. And let me note for the record as well, I've not always agreed with Ms. Gupta. I was very involved in housing finance reform. Ms. Gupta, as chairman of the Conference on Civil Rights, had a different opinion, but I always respected her intellect, her willingness to listen to alternative views, and her willingness to really dig into the facts. And that background as a civil rights leader in the thick of issues around policing, race, and criminal justice reform has actually led the investigations, and she's actually led the investigations of police departments in Ferguson, Chicago, and Baltimore. At the same time, I have a long list of law enforcement groups who are supporting Ms. Gupta's nomination, including the National Fraternal Order of the Police. And again, in terms of the FOP, I think in all my career I have one time they endorsed me. So again, her receiving that endorsement is different than myself and perhaps even the senator from Illinois. Ms. Gupta has also led broad-ranging and robust enforcement and education efforts to combat hate crimes, including the first ever prosecutions under the newly enacted Matthew Shepard and James Byrd Jr. Hate Crimes Prevention Act. Under her leadership, the Civil Rights Division trained local and federal law enforcement throughout the country in recognizing, investigating, and proving hate crimes, in educating communities and engaging them in the process of ensuring public safety and encouraging better hate crime reporting and data collection. I'd like to close on one other timely credential. As chairman of the Intelligence Committee, I've meticulously chronicled the corrosive effects of disinformation and foreign interference in our elections, something that the presiding officer is also a national leader on. Ms. Gupta has been a leading force for election integrity, thoughtfully and firmly engaging social media platforms to address disinformation on their platforms, as well as voter suppression, hate, division, and violence. Among the many important roles that the Department of Justice has right now, securing our democracy itself is surely near the top of the list. Vinita Gupta is a person of extraordinary ability. She has the right experience for this role, and I'm honored to support her in her nomination today and hope that later today we will get broad bipartisan support to move forward that nomination. And this is maybe I'm going to transfer to a second subject, which actually goes a little bit in concert with talking about Vinita Gupta, and that is rising in support of the COVID-19 Hate Crimes Act and the Jabara Hire No Hate Act. During the COVID-19 pandemic, our nation has witnessed a surge in racism, xenophobia, and violence against Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders. In fact, between March of last year and February of this year, there were nearly 3,800 hate incidents targeting Asian Americans. It should go without saying that these actions have no place in our communities. To address this spike in anti-Asian rhetoric and hate crimes, we must stand in solidarity with the AAPI community, and we must act against these heinous crimes. The COVID-19 Hate Crimes Act helps address this crisis head-on. This bill very simply requires Attorney General Garland to designate a coordinator within the Department of Justice to expedite review and facilitate reporting of COVID-19 related hate crimes. Further, it requires the DOJ to issue guidance to state and local law enforcement to equip them with the tools needed to deal with the disturbing surge in incidents targeting the AAPI community. It's tragic, but not surprising, that hate crimes in America have always been critically underreported. In fact, reports released by the Department of Justice in recent years suggest that the majority of hate crimes are not even reported. Not even reported. Our current patchwork system, paired with inconsistent reporting and resources, guarantees that many instances of hate-related violence and crimes go uncounted. Not only does this mask the true scale of hate incidents across our nation, it also means that investigative resources and support structures may not be available to victims who need them. This problem can be exacerbated by cultural and language barriers and made even worse by the pandemic, which has made it more difficult for folk to get connected with reporting mechanisms or useful resources. Fortunately, the COVID-19 Hate Crimes Act seeks to address these challenges by providing a clearinghouse for these cases. Over the past decade, our nation has seen a steady rise in hate crimes. Groups and individuals targeting minority and religious groups have increasingly perpetrated sickening acts of violence, fueled by hateful ideologies. We've seen that here on January 6th, but we also saw it earlier in my state, in Virginia. In Charlottesville, back in 2017, we saw this hate and violence on our streets when a white supremacist drove a car into a group of peaceful protesters, injuring many and killing a young woman named Heather Heyer. It is critical that we give our law enforcement the tools they need to curb these horrific acts. That's why, on a related item, I'm also a co-sponsor of the bipartisan Jabara Hire No Hate Act. And my hope is that it will be offered as an amendment into the COVID-19 bill that we hopefully will be addressing shortly. This bill modernizes our reporting system for hate crimes so that we can respond to accurate data. It also provides grants to establish hate crime hotlines to record information about hate crimes and to redirect victims and witnesses to law enforcement and local support services as needed. Finally, this bill provides a federal private right of action for hate crime victims and allows judges to sentence community-specific education and community service. Together, these changes create a new model for addressing these crimes and preventing them from going unreported or unpunished. Both the COVID-19 Hate Crime Act and the Jabara Hire No Hate Act are straightforward pieces of legislation that give victims and law enforcement officers the tools they desperately need to tackle the increasing prevalence of hate incidents in our country. I would hope that we'd move quickly on both these pieces of legislation in major bipartisan fashion. With that, Mr. President, I yield the floor.
Senator for Arkansas.
Vanita Gupta is President Biden's nominee to be the Associate Attorney General. She's unfit for that role. She's unfit because of her radical view that every single American and every single institution in the United States is inherently racist. She's unfit because she lacks the temperament to do the job, as evidenced by her relentless attacks on the integrity and